Welcome to Freedom Motivated with Christina Whiteley, the podcast that empowers you to live life on your terms. Are you uninspired, bored, and unhappy with where life has taken you? And yearning for a life filled with purpose and passion? Look no further. We are here to ignite that fire within, to awaken your true potential, and to guide you on a journey towards absolute freedom. Join us as we delve into the minds of incredible entrepreneurs and freedom leaders from very different backgrounds with incredible stories. Be inspired by their resilience and learn from their challenges they faced along the path to success. These are the brave individuals who fight every day to awaken people to the power of self-responsibility and who inspire them to create a life they are absolutely in love with. Each episode will explore the concept of conscious income creation, building a business or creating a career that aligns with your unique skill set, purpose, values, and belief system. Discover the strategies, tips, and invaluable insights shared by our guests as they guide you towards making a living doing what you love. It's time to break free from the shackles of conformity and embrace the freedom that awaits. Are you ready to take control of your life? Are you ready to step into the life you've always dreamed of? Then welcome to Freedom Motivated, the podcast that will ignite your spirit and unleash your potential. All right. Welcome to another episode of Freedom Motivated. My name is Christina Whiteley, and I'm so excited to have my guest today, Miss Phebe Trotman. Now, we met a few months back. She was a guest on our weekly talk show, Uncensored Entrepreneurs. We have every Thursday live at 10 a.m. And for those of you that are not plugged into that, make sure you follow on Facebook because we have a lot of really incredible guests there. And we have really great conversations about what it's like to be an entrepreneur and like the behind the scenes talk that nobody actually talks about, the difficulties. And that's a part of the reason that I really like Miss Phebe because she was a pro soccer player. She's going to tell you her story. And she has a book coming out that I think many people need to read right now because I know that it has been a mantra of my life. And the book is called Never Quit on a Bad Day. And I can, when I was thinking about speaking with you today, Phoebe, I was thinking like I can count on both hands those days that like I literally did not want to get out of bed and thought, I can't do this. I'm not cut out for this. This is not for me. What am I doing here? This is so dumb. I need to go back to what was easy, And so I remember, like, I specifically remember those days and those points in time, and they didn't kill me, by the way, I'm still here, right? But I think that this is such a great message. So Phoebe, will you please share your story with us and start from the beginning, and then we can have a really great conversation about how you've moved through challenges and how you've gotten to be where you are right now.
Absolutely. And first, thank you so much, Christine. I've been looking forward to this conversation. It was great to connect with you on Uncensored Entrepreneurs. And I love what you're doing with your show and that show, and because it's just so important for people to kind of hear the story behind the story. And so it is really an honor. And, when you say you can count on your hands, how many of those tough days, I feel like we all have those, right? That's part of being alive. And there's so much challenging stuff, but in that there's a lot of beauty in that as well too, which I'm sure we'll chat about today. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Vancouver, Canada. I've been playing soccer since I was 5 years old, really. I started off on an all boys team. I was a little girl, only little person of color, and that was my introduction into the sport. And I fell in love with it. I started playing because my older brother played, and I've had an incredible career throughout playing. I do still play. I've won national championships at pretty much all levels, and has just been and had some personal awards as well too. So I've had an incredible soccer career, if you will. And a lot of times people see, all these accolades, but there was challenging times too. Like I remember when I got cut from a team and was devastated and cried for weeks until my parents kind of had that gut check, hard conversation. And so we can chat a bit more about that as well too. And then, out of school, I was working. I was at a job that I didn't necessarily love, and so I started some side projects, if you will. And thankfully, I did when I did because the company I worked for went bankrupt and I was laid off, and so that was another transition. And then I made that choice to kind of focus on building a business, an online business, and continued in that capacity for 17, 18 years, if you will, now. And recently released my first book in the Plan series series last year, and then the other one actually just came out last week. So it's been an incredible journey, lots of twists and turns. And the important thing, and we were chatting about this earlier, just to continue to move forward. And so that's where we are there. That's the short version, and we can unpack it if you would like to.
We will unpack it for sure. And you know what's so interesting? Like you start off and in entrepreneurship and you think it's the destination that you want to reach. And then after years and years and years of it, you're like, oh, wait, it was the journey all along. That was the piece that I was supposed to enjoy. That was the piece that I needed to dig into. And now I enjoy it so much more without that need or that incessant need to get to the goal right away, because I realize it's who you become in the process, right? And I kind of laughed when you said you were on an all boys soccer team, and I mean, not laughed at haha, but like I smirked a little bit, that you were the only girl, because my daughter, although she's not the only blonde hair, blue eye kid on her team down here in Mexico, this was her first year playing soccer and she's 7. And like, I swear to God, these kids down here come out of the womb playing soccer. Like they're like little soccer stars at like 5. And Izzy's like, Mom, like, I don't really get to play a lot in the games. And so we had to have the conversation. Hey, if you want to play in the games, you have to show up to all the practices. You have to put in the work. You have to get better, right? Because they're going to, at the games, that's why you practice. And isn't that the true in business, right? That's why we do business, is because it's about the practice. It's about what we go through and what we overcome along the way. And, one of the things that you said is, I bet one of the day that your company went bankrupt, right? So many people get a job because we've been sold this dream of it being stable, like get a good paying job with healthcare and a pension. And like, then you're taken care of. Like that was definitely what I was taught as a kid, but you don't realize that the only way that you're in control of your life is if you work for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So what I would love to do is like talk a little bit about the journey. And, you said, your parents helped you work through the times when, when it didn't quite work out for you and had these hard conversations. And I think a lot of us, we didn't have that kind of support, or we didn't have that real talk with our parents that, hey, like, this is what the world is all about. Like it is hard out there. And you're going to have to step up to the plate if you really want something. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, like, kudos to you for having that conversation with Izzy and saying that, because I think that is really important. And that's something I'm so grateful for my upbringing, if you will, because my parents, like when I didn't make this team, even though I was one of the top players on my community team, and it's funny, I went into, that expecting to make it and I didn't. And it was just like, wait, what? And having to work through those emotions. I mean, my parents, and in hindsight, I look back on that and they could have easily given the like, well, that's not fair. You should be on the team. And, had this whole one reaction, but instead they kind of said, okay, well, the decision has been made. So what do you want to do, Phoebe, with your soccer? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to let one coach's decision determine your future, or what can you control? And they really had that conversation to refocus me on what can I control? And I can control my attitude, how hard I work. That's why everything you were saying, the conversation you had, Izzy, I'm like nodding, because it was that refocus. And that's where I made a decision that going forward, I wanted to be an impact player, that whatever, and really make the most of any opportunity I'm given on the field, because that is a gift in terms of having that opportunity to play. And so that was a huge turning point for me. And it really served me well in my athletic career, because I made the most of all the opportunities. And I knew how hard I was going to have to work behind the scenes. So when I was given that opportunity to be on the field, that impact would be felt. And so that has kind of served me well throughout my athletic career, as well as in terms of, making that transition into the business world, if you will, in terms of, we know it's the behind the scenes, like people get to see, the game or that moment on the field, if you will, or they get to see, and, in your business, you might have accolades or the success, but it's really all the stuff that happens behind the scenes that lead to what we see on, the outside or the top or the game, if you will.
Yeah, and what it comes down to is self-responsibility, right? Like I actually have a friend that's a high school basketball coach, and he said, out of everything, I'm like, what do you like best? What do you like worst? And he's like, I love working with the kids. I love developing skills. I said, what do you like the worst? He's like, or what's the worst? And he's like, dealing with the parents that have these expectations, that feel entitled to this stuff, right? Whereas your parents were like, no, you're responsible for this, like how you show up. And isn't that the case with all opportunity? There are opportunities everywhere, and you can say yes to any of them, but it's not about the opportunity. It's what you do with that opportunity, right? And how that plans out for you is completely up to you, because people get offered gigs, get offered things all the time. And if they don't follow through on that or don't show up in the way that you were just speaking about, then they don't get the full benefit of that opportunity. And I really love how you talked about your expectations. When, when you were like, you were in the top 3 in your league and you're like, you were expecting, you were walking in like, this is no big deal. I'm not really going to have to work for it, which I feel like we all have to learn that lesson the hard way. Like, seriously, I grew up, I started singing competitively when I was 7. So I started singing at festivals and competing. And I didn't really have to practice, like I was just gifted. And so I remember going into probably the 3rd year, and I would always place, whether it was like 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, I'd always place. And the 3rd year I went in and I didn't place. I didn't practice either. I took it for granted, the skill that I had. And I remember getting in the car and I was silent. And I'll never forget this, right? I get in the car, my mom's like, so how did you feel about that? I'm like, not very good. And she's like, so what could you do to change the outcome? Like, how could you have changed what happened? And I said, well, I guess I could have practiced. Because she would always say, hey, if you practice today, I'm like, nah, I'm good, right? Like, I'm good, right? Because you get this confidence about you. But I think that humility, that like being humble, that event that happens to you, you never really forget that. And you're like, okay, so now moving forward, I have to show up as my best. Every single time I have to show up as my best. And preparation kills all talent, right? Like if you actually prepare and prepare and prepare. And I wish that I'd been taught that. Were your parents like that? Did they have like this growth mindset that you could constantly get better? Is that how they raised you?
Yeah, again, I'm so grateful. My parents were really big into personal development and they were always learning. Like my dad was an instructor for the Dale Carnegie training. So they
Oh,
all,
yeah.
which is so funny though, because I joke, because I used to get so annoyed because he'd always have tapes playing in the car, always. And he would just be like, can we listen to the music? But it's so funny how the seeds were planted. And I always say that to parents, like, your kids, it's okay if they don't want to hear it right now and they're rolling their eyes. Cause I was that child or teenager, if you will, who just was like, oh, here we go, another life lesson. However, it served me so well. And yeah, my parents were big on accountability, taking responsibility. It wasn't okay, this isn't fair. Even though there are going to be moments that aren't fair, they truly aren't. However, it's, do we sit in that or how do we move forward with it? And I was sharing a story with someone else the other day. I was talking about how I was in brownies, and I remember there were these girls that were just so mean to me. And it was literally because of the color of my skin. It was a horrible, horrible experience. And I remember being like, I want to quit. I'm done. I'm out of it. And my parents, as much as obviously this was gut wrenching for them to have to, hear and see their child go through this, they didn't let me quit brownies. They were like, okay, we're going to finish it out. And who are your friends in that group? Like, who are the people who do like you? Focus on them, connect with them. And it was like this, again, because that wasn't a fair experience. What shouldn't have to happen. Yet they kind of helped me realize like not everyone's going to be my friend. And that's kind of on them. That's their loss, if you will. And
Yeah.
the people I can connect with. And so there were just so many incredible lessons that I'm so grateful for that I have the parents that I have, in terms of what I learned. And they very much had a growth mindset and always, setting up for, okay, what can you control? How do you take responsibility for your own actions? And like really big, important lessons that will serve, and have served me well for my entire life, whether it is in athletics or professionally as well, too.
Yeah, and I'm sure that that mindset did actually serve you to become somebody that played soccer professionally and somebody that was willing to follow through on that dream. And I think this is also a really great lesson to parents out there that are listening, that like what you say and what you do matters. What you have playing in the background matters. What your mindset is and how you raise your children matters. Like you are the role model, and see like what the outcome is years later, how you've thrived and how now you're out there making an impact. Like that's my dream, is that my kids rise up and they're out there making an impact and helping people, right? So how we raise them really matters. And can you talk a little bit about how this book came to be? What made you decide to write a book and become an author? What made you decide to write on this topic, never quit on a bad day? What was that impactful moment that kind of, this was the line in the sand?
Yeah, it's so interesting because again, I've looking back, writing a book was never really on my list of goals, if you will. It's always been to make an impact and encourage and help. And so I was actually with some friends, and another important lesson, who you surround yourself with is just so important. I was with some good friends, and we were chatting about entrepreneurship, and they have their own online business and doing incredible things. And I was sharing, they're kind of like, what's next? You know how you get together with entrepreneurs, you're like, what are you working on? And we're having this conversation. And I said to them, I've just had it on my heart for the last several years to create something to encourage, inspire, and help people. Like, really, all these lessons I've learned as an athlete and entrepreneur, like wanting to share that with other people. And they were the ones who suggested write a book. And I kind of like paused a little bit, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if book's the way to do it, but I was open to it. And we were kind of chatting a little bit more. And I said to them, well, if I'm going to write a book, it has to do two things. Number one, it has to help and encourage people. And number two, I have to feel passionate about the topic and the content. And the month before that, I had an amazing honor. I was inducted into the Coquitlam Sports Hall of Fame, and they had this induction ceremony, and we are chatting about, the life lessons and what have I learned from sport. And so I was sharing, and I said, a lot of the life lessons and the high achievements I've had in sport is because of all the tough stuff I've gone through sport. Again, not making the team, sitting on the bench, sometimes not even dressing for a game, working through all those things to get to the other side, if you will. And so when we were chatting about that, that's when I was like, that night I was brainstorming. I was like, that's what I want to share, the story behind the story, because I feel like there's so many incredible lessons as an athlete that we can share, as entrepreneurs that we can share, that can just help people along their journey. Even if the situation that someone goes through isn't the same, it's the what did that person go through, or how did they grow through it? And what did they do to help them enjoy the journey, if you will, of some of those challenges? And so that really was the catalyst. And then I got super excited about it because I knew it could help people. I knew all the stuff that I've gone through, really from even like that, starting on an all boys team up until now, can help people along their own journey. And so it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot because this is totally something new. There were all the same, that what do I know about writing a book? I don't know how to write a book. All the questions that come up. And again, I just worked through it, and I'm learning a lot on the go, and have incredible mentors and coaches who've helped along the process as well too.
I love that. It's funny. I never thought that I would be writing in books, and I've written chapters in a few different books. We have another book that's coming out. And I think that when somebody, like, I remember being asked that first time, and I was like, looked around. I was like, you mean me? You're asking me? Like, me? I'm like small town girl from the West Coast. Like, I don't know if this is me, right? And
Yeah.
when you realize that everybody has a story, that your story is actually impactful, you might not think it's impactful, but the things that you've overcome in your life, the challenges, the things that have made you who you are, that might be two steps ahead of somebody else. And if you share that journey and share the things that you've healed through, is actually the final step of healing, right? And it was so funny because while you're going through it, you think you're crazy. Like, you're just like, I don't understand. This is so difficult. Why am I doing this? And I heard a really great quote from Jamie Kern Lima this morning. And she said, you're not crazy. You're just first. Right? You're not crazy, you're just first. And so, when I think about what you've accomplished in your life, do you still have challenges now? Are there still things that you go through? Like, I know things are going really well. You're launching your next book. Things are great, but are there still challenges that really like help you view the world in a way that maybe inspires you to keep moving forward, or inspires other people that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, right now is a very challenging time personally. And so it's interesting because I share this in the book a little bit. Like, my plan was like, finish book one, we'll finish book one's done. Okay, book two, let's go, and just roll through this. Like, that was in my head. And I'm definitely that type of person where it's like, when I'm focused on something, let's go. And I've had to really slow down with some personal things, like becoming the primary caregiver for my mom. And it's hard. Like, there are very challenging days. Every day is different. And just kind of navigating through that. And so I did take a bit of a pause in terms of starting the next book. And I share that in the book that I just released. Like, I've done every single thing, and every lesson that is shared in the first book and in this book are lessons and activities and tasks that I'm doing every single day to move through this, because it is a very challenging season personally. There's some amazing things happening on the professional side, and in other capacities in other areas of my life, but really it is a struggle. And so, we talk about, especially in the first book and in both books, we talk a lot about gratitude, and And one of the things that I've had to do is really take those times to be grateful for, even though it is such a challenging season, finding things to be grateful for in other areas. And even in this, new role, if you will, in my life, where I am a primary caregiver, and it's shifted very quickly. And it's something that is very, very challenging. And every day is different. Every single day is different. And, I say to myself all the time, never quit on a bad day, never quit on a bad day. It's a bad day, it's a bad moment, but keep going through, move forward, and I'm repeating these things to myself all the time as I navigate through this. And I don't know what next steps, it's kind of sometimes on our journey, we're like, okay, what do I do? Well, the key is just to keep moving forward, and then you'll figure it out. The next step is, and go step by step.
Yeah, and I absolutely can relate to this being a new mom.
Oh.
Right? And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna roll through this. I'll take like a 6-week break, I'll get back on and I'll be doing, business as usual. Well, it took me almost 9 weeks to recover from birth. And then I realized I actually don't want to continue. I want to embrace the little moments and the time that I have with him. We had that conversation before we went live, and the little moments that you get to spend with your mom, like how grateful you are for that time and how important that time is, because it's fleeting. It goes by so fast and we don't get it back, right? And so this time to slow down in entrepreneurship, this elusive time to slow down, I never felt good about that. Like, I always thought you had to push through. And then I read the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, and he talked about these periods of time that he took off. And maybe it was 3 months, maybe it was a year, right? Off of moving forward. And as entrepreneurs, we think we have to just like incessantly go towards the goal all the time. But there are different seasons. There are different seasons in life. And the reason that we're entrepreneurs is for that time freedom. And it's funny because I posted this the other day or yesterday. My husband sent me a little Facebook meme, and you'll laugh because you'll understand. I'm like, love notes from my husband. And it says, every dead body on Mount Everest was once a highly motivated person. So maybe calm down. Right? And so
Good
he's
one.
like, even when
And
you
true.
think you're not doing enough, you are doing enough, right? And I think that message needs to be heard loud and clear. And so what do you do on those days where you feel like you're doing it all and it's not moving forward, and it's really frustrating for you? How do you refocus instead of being frustrated and giving up? What is the thing that brings you back? I know your mantra, and never give up on a bad day, right? Having a mantra and being able to focus forward, but what are kind of some of the things that you end up doing to help you pull through that time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of it is being okay with that. And as you shared, that's part of the reason we are entrepreneurs, building a network marketing business. I remember, like, I lost my dad 12 years ago and to cancer, and it was a very challenging season, the couple years after he was diagnosed. And I was just so grateful that I had built this business because, I remember hearing a quote very like early on. It's like, you take care of business when things are good. So when things are bad, your business takes care of you. And so being okay with those seasons and realizing that it is okay to slow down, and that time is the most important and precious gift. And so, I mean, I have those days where, yeah, I'm very like, oh, it's, it was, even this morning, it was a morning, but I always just say, as long as it's something to move forward, really and truly, that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's just like doing one thing every single day, at least one thing. I have my list of things that I want to get done in a day, and sometimes just giving myself grace that it might just be one thing, and that's okay. The key is still just doing something and being okay with it. And that's for me. There's going to be some people who you might just need to take that day. And I do have days where it's like, it's a Phebe day. It's gonna be
Totally.
a very Phebe day. And being okay with that and understanding that that is all part of it. And I think that's why, again, I want to share so much the story behind the story, because we do have choices. And one of the things that I've said is I choose when I'm to show up, even when it's a tough time. I still can be grateful. I still can find joy. I can still be kind. Like, yes, it's hard, but we have those choices that we can make. And I say, champions are made in the choices, right? We have those
Yep.
choices, and I believe we're all champions in our own right. And so it's figuring out, what does that choice look like for you in that moment? And for some people, it might be you're just choosing to, take that day, and then you need that. For others, it's going to be choosing to do certain things that fill your cup, right? And being around people who fill your cup. And so every day, again, as I said, every day is so different. So the things that I would say consistently for me that help me move forward is gratitude, just taking those times and being like, what can I be grateful for in this exact moment, even though I may want to go it's like, what can I find to be grateful for? And holding on to that. And then for me, it's just whenever doing at least one thing that's helping me move towards my goals and dreams.
I think that that is the characteristic of successful people, is the gratitude that they have for where they're at and always looking for the silver lining. Like you could be in the middle of a flood and you're like, oh, who has a boat? Like, are we going fishing? Like it's how you look at the situation and seeing that and choosing to see that silver lining. It's funny because I go through the same thing with my daughter when she gets frustrated and she gets angry. And I'm just like, look, it's a choice to be angry. You can either accept what's happening and choose to operate in the way that you can control, or you can be angry, but that's on you. Like that's how you have to show up and how you have to, and that doesn't feel very good, does it? It feels kind of crappy. So wouldn't it be better if we just did what we could to make it a better situation and we all move forward together, right? And I wish that like that was taught when we were young. Like we didn't have, maybe it was for you, right? But like figuring out those little things along the way so that that's just how they view life. And I really like the idea of like, just do one thing, right? Just do one thing. Even I was talking to somebody about business yesterday, and I was like, here's your plan, but go make the Facebook group today. Go sign up for a Stripe account. Like go, if you looking at a new car, go start doing your research on buying a new car. Like just take one step forward. And all you have to know is what is the next right step for you right now? That's all you have to know. You don't have to think about where do I have to be in 5 years, 10 years, because honestly, you'll surprise yourself if you just keep moving forward with that next right step on where you're at. But the piece about when you're having a bad day and just taking that step forward, a mentor gave me a really good piece of advice, and she said, when you're upset about something, when you're frustrated with someone, when someone's treated you poorly, two things: go move your body and get some exercise, right? And then the second thing is go do something to help someone else, because you'll never feel bad helping somebody else. And when I started to adopt that, right, like when I'm just like, oh, I'm so frustrated or I'm upset about something, like just go for a hike, go do get outside, put your feet in the sand, figure out what you need to do, because that'll be the thing that clears you, not just sitting in anger or sitting in frustration. And so when things like that happen to you, do you have like a special, like, do you take that special day? Do you like take that day off and just like self-care, or do you go for a run? Like you're an athlete. So like, how did you manage those emotions, those disappointments? I'm sure you've gone through frustrations when you were playing, right? Like you probably had multiple injuries in your career, and like, what's it like to like sit there and be so frustrated and know that you can't do anything about that right now? How did you move through those times?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I am big into fitness. So that's part of my self-care on a daily basis. Every single day I'm doing something in terms of moving my body, and that does help. I've noticed that over the years when I have had those times where I just haven't been active, if you will, I get a little so that is just something that I continually do. When I was playing, professional soccer or whatnot, and there were times when it was frustrating, you're again not playing, whether it's because of injury, not playing because you weren't at your top performing level at that time, whatever it might be. It was always kind of just, again, taking that accountability. If it was something on me, like, okay, have I given it my all this week to training sessions? And kind of focusing on, again, what I can control. And if it was something that was, I'm giving it my all, doing it, also realizing timing and learning to be patient with that, which is, I'm working on my patience in life in general, but you have to, because even as entrepreneurs, there were times when I would want results faster and I would get frustrated, and I had to focus on, and again, accountability. Am I doing consistent activity to get consistent results? And if so, then I have to allow the time and trusting that process that it will all come together. And so, yeah, movement is huge. Sometimes I just like to like blast music, and it can be from like soca to like worship and gospel music, depending on the mood, and just to, again, have that moment of like to reshift. Also having those trusted people that you can reach out to that can help you refocus. And I say, you can have those people who will help ground you. And depending what you're going through, and it's so important to have a good community and circle and know who you're reaching out to. Because do you want someone, if you're feeling like you're on flames, you don't want someone who's going to pour gasoline on the fire. You want someone who's going to fire extinguish and put it out. And so we can, again, it's a choice. Who do you reach out to? We all have those great friends who we know we love, who can add, they might be the fire starters, right? They're the ones who are like, you're right, it wasn't fair. You're right, did it? no, like that's our choice, right? That's the so I have people who I reach out to when I just need that, like, hey, they know me to my core and they can speak life into me. They can speak, help me refocus and reframe. And it's so, again, I just go back to like, who are you surrounding yourself with? And I always encourage people, and we talk about this in the book, like if you don't have those people right now, that's okay. In this next season, be intentional. Be that person for
Yes.
everyone else. Be that person first, where when someone reaches out to you and they're going through something, can you be that rock? Can you be that support system? Can you speak life into people and encouragement? Be that first, and you're naturally going to attract those people into your life. And so it's okay if you feel right now you're like, I don't know who I would reach out to in that moment. Just be intentional in this next season. And that's something I'm so grateful that I just have such an incredible community of big sisters and big brothers and mentors and people that when I have those moments, which I have had throughout my life, I have those people who I can reach out to.
That is so important to have. I had a conversation like that yesterday morning, and I knew the exact person to call at the time that I needed them. And they just gave me the other perspective that I needed, or just even somebody to talk it out with. And those people are worth their weight in gold. Sometimes you have to pay them, right? Sometimes it's a counselor or somebody that does energy work and you have them on your team and they're amazing. But as you grow as a human being, you start to attract those people, like you said. And the other piece, there's a couple other things that I want to go back to because, you said on a bad day, how long are you going to stay down for? Like I'm reiterating in a different phrase, but like, how long are you going to stay down for when things are tough? How long are you going to let yourself feel that way? I remember when I first got into business, a bad comment or a negative person could take me out for a month. And then it was a couple of weeks. And then it was, 2 days. And then it was 24 hours. And then it was 2 hours. And then it was 15 minutes. And now it's just like, come on, moving on, like, so like you get these opportunities that come in front of you and they're there to help you grow. They're there to help you overcome these challenges. And I love that you like rewrite your mood with music and like just turn the music up because music can change your mood, right? If you listen to a sad song, you can cry. If you listen to a song that pumps you up and get you moving, I'm still like, I'm 40 years old. And my favorite thing to do is drive down the road with my Jeep with the windows down or the top off and like blast my music. I want to feel it. I want to feel the bass. I want to feel my music. And it brings me so much joy. And I don't care that I look like a stupid teenager. I don't care. Like, I'm just like, this is the best day ever, right? Like, that's all I need to do
What
is to
you need
rewrite.
in that moment, right? You need that in
Yeah,
that moment. And
yeah.
that's what's key is knowing it. Do you have like a song that you go to? Do you have or a playlist or anything?
I have a playlist. I've like
Nice.
definitely have a playlist because I've used a playlist in a couple of different ways. Like even when I was doing shadow work, I had a playlist that would evoke all this emotion that made me sad so that I could process the emotion. And now I have a playlist. I have like a travel playlist. I have a Cabo playlist. I have a Canadian playlist. I have a cabin playlist, right? All these different playlists that suit the mood that I'm in or what I need at that point in time, right? That are positive or motivating or whatever it is. I want to talk really quick before we go about this because I think it's really important. And people, I talk about this all the time on my podcast because I'm a huge advocate of network marketing, and people kind of stare down their nose. It was funny because one of my team members the other day came to me and they said, their DoorDash person said, "Oh, I would never stoop to the level of doing that," right? Like I'm like, you're doing DoorDash and you're trading dollars for hours and you're driving for 10 hours a day. Like, are you serious? You don't know what you're saying no to. So people look down at it. But like you, there's been times that I have really gone through challenges, whether I've lost, people in my life or gone through emotional challenges of my own, that business has saved my butt more times than not. Right. And so I want to hear a little bit about how you got into it. Did you get into network marketing before your company closed, like before the business that you were working for, or the employer that you're working before went bankrupt? Is that when you got into it or after?
Yeah. So, it's funny because my mom had a network marketing business when I was young. So I've seen, her on stage and doing all kinds of things. And
Oh,
that's probably where the mindset as well in terms of for both my parents. That being said, I had been approached for by many people. And I just hadn't found something that really resonated and connected with me. And then interestingly enough, a friend shared this product with me. And I was like, oh, I can use this in my coaching business. Because one of those side hustles that I started was my own soccer coaching company with a teammate. And so I just started using it more as a service for that, for my coaching business. And then when I knew there was an opportunity attached to it, and I was like, I just want to make my money back. And I knew a few people would ask about it. So I did get started in the entrepreneur option, if you will. But I didn't have this big plan to build it as a business until the company went bankrupt. And when it did, and I looked at, and I always encourage people to do this, is look forward. You don't have to wait for like you're in a crossroads and, look forward right now. Where do you want your life to be in the next 5 years? Like, and really take some time with it, sit in it, write in present tense, write the feeling behind it, go through that process. And I ended up doing that in that crossroads. And I knew that I wanted to be able to kind of build a business from anywhere. I wanted that flexibility. I wanted that time freedom. And that's why I chose to go their direction of really putting my teeth into this business and building it as a business, if you will, versus some of the other things that I could have done, because I wanted to have that, be able to be wherever, if you will, and have that option. And so network marketing, I mean, it's interesting because people have this, they hear it and they're just like, they turn their nose up to it. And I'm like, you know what? Just be open. I'm not saying you want to sign up for everything, but just be open, because you never know. And the other thing I always share with people, like network marketing, so many people get into it and their focus is like, and most people, let's be honest, they get into it because they either love the service, they love the product, they want to make some extra money, whatever it might be. But there's so many other gems. And I talk about this in a training that I did where, we focus on this pot of gold. And so we sign up in network marketing and our goal is like, I want to make X amount of money per month. That's the pot of gold. But if you're digging for gold, and you see a ruby or a diamond, are you just going to leave it there because you're going for this big pot? No, you're going to pick it up. And so those diamonds and rubies are the people you meet in network marketing. Like some of my best friends are people I met through network marketing. That doesn't have anything to do with the money that I've made. It has strictly to do with the people, the person that you grow into. That's another gem that you can pick up that can serve you in so many other ways and other, in your life, whatever it might be. So there's so many the experiences, right? Being able to travel, different things that you're going to get along the way on this route to this pot of gold, if you will. And you may not hit the pot of gold in the network marketing company that you first joined. It might be another one. It might be something else that leads you to just being open and grateful. And so I encourage people, there's incredible companies, incredible products, incredible services. Are there the ones that aren't the best? Absolutely.
Sure.
That's in anything, everything we can do that. It's just, and so I just encourage people, again, whether someone joins a company or not is really their own personal choice. But just keep in mind, it could unlock so many other great gems, if you will, just by saying yes, or even just attending, a friend has, just support people, right? The same way we support, be open, take a look. And if it's not for you, just be honest about it. Hey, you know what? Cool. That's great for you. It's not my cup of tea right now. And that's fair.
Absolutely. I wish that more people did that because they're missing out on an opportunity to grow, right? Like I would not be the person I am today, or would I have had the opportunities that I've had today if I didn't have that network marketing background. When I went to university many, many, many years ago, it was for music because that was the only thing that I loved. I never even thought about going for business because I was raised in this environment, like just get a stable job, go be a music teacher, right? And I realized very quickly that I didn't want to be a music teacher. I wanted to be the next Christina Aguilera. I'm dating myself now, right?
Don't
But
worry,
like, I wanted to be
you.
a rock star, right? And then I realized, well, actually, I really want to be a mom too, and that's not the lifestyle that I want to live. And all of the failed attempts, like I just want to say, all of the failed attempts are what brings you to who you are, who you become. And you don't know where that's going to happen. And if it feels good, say yes. If it doesn't, then say no. But I think that in that process, you talk about the friends that you've met and the people that you love. It helps you learn communication and leadership and influence because you're nobody's boss, like you have to earn it. And there's a huge amount of value in that service. So I really appreciate you speaking to that in such a positive light. Before we go, where can people find your book? Where can they buy your book?
Yeah, so the books are available on Amazon. So again, it's called Never Quit on a Bad Day, Inspiring Stories of Resilience. The first book features stories from thriving entrepreneurs. The one that just came out features stories from accomplished athletes. I want to stress to people though, one's not a business book and one's not a sports book. They're really life lessons that you can now pull from these athletes or entrepreneurs to apply to your own journey. And so the feedback has been amazing. I'm also available on social media, Facebook and Instagram. It's just Never Quit on a Bad Day. One thing you said, Christina, that I want to circle back with, because I like leaving people with action items. The playlist. I suggest that everyone create a playlist that lights your fire. As you hear songs, just call it whatever you want to call it, that my joy playlist, if you will, right? Like I have different playlists, the same thing too. And the reason is because you want to prepare for the bad days on the good ones. So you want to set the playlist up
Yes.
now. You don't want to wait for the like, oh my gosh, set it up now. And so I always like to leave people with something to do. And when you said the playlist, when we were talking about the playlist, I feel like that's on my heart to share for people. So set up your playlist and let us know what songs you put on it. So I'm always
Yeah,
add mine as
absolutely.
well too.
Thank you so much for today, Phoebe. I really appreciate it. It was great speaking with you again. I really appreciate how you show up in this world and the impact that you're making. Thank you for another episode of Freedom Motivated. We will see you again next time. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of Freedom Motivated with your host, me, Christina Whiteley. We hope that the stories we've shared today have sparked a fire within you and ignited your passion for living life on your terms. Remember, true freedom lies in the choices we make and the actions we take. So go out there and embrace your journey. Take the leap of faith, believe in yourself, and never settle for less than what you deserve. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Freedom Motivated podcast and never miss out on our upcoming interviews with more incredible entrepreneurs and freedom leaders. Be bold. Be brave, be disruptive. You are capable of things far beyond your wildest dreams if you just have the courage to go for it. Thank you for being a part of this incredible community. Until next time, may you always be driven by the desire for freedom and motivated to make your dreams a reality.